next up, we have a presentation called The Internet is Broken, which quite frankly I find quite ironic because, as I say every year, this is the man that broke our system several years ago. He was briefed that we do PowerPoint here, and he said, I'd like to use Prezi. Are you familiar with Prezi? It's, flash-based and rather power-intensive. 5 minutes into the presentation, the whole thing stopped. Smoke issued from the machinery. And what I love and what I took away and I learned is how magical that can be for us as a community, because Rafa just kept talking for another 20 minutes with no assistance. And it was one of the best presentations and most honest presentations that I've seen. In fact, Chris, who works with Rafa, said at the end of it, 3 people came up to you and said, I don't know what you were talking about, but I want to buy it. So I don't know whether he's learned from that. I can tell you that this year he wants to do even more complicated things. He's going to bring on 5 guests, and he's warned us there will be loud music as well. So anything can happen. Quite frankly, I hope it does. Please welcome the CEO of Open-Xchange. This is Rafael Laguna.
What can I say after such an introduction? Raising expectations over what I'm going to do. I dared for the first time to do slides again, so that's new. And after the incident that Spencer mentioned, for a couple of years, I didn't do slides because, it's scary to talk over slides that are not actually shown in the background. People get these stares. Why did I pick this title? Why is the internet broken? You have been in the industry for a long time, and you probably know because you run most of that infrastructure, and you know that the design of these systems was not quite built to the scales that we're using now. And there are a lot of people out there that use these shortcomings in the design to do things with our data and our systems that we've learned of very recently. This picture, we Germans, we are a little special. We've had a history of government surveillance. In the GDR, which was sort of the Russian part of Germany, and then in Nazi Germany, we had government institutions that were spying on their own people. Now, you might say the NSA is not such a big problem because it's spying on the foreigners, but every foreigner that communicates with an American gets spied upon too, so I wouldn't feel all that safe even if you're American. Too much data in the hands of governments is dangerous. And of course, the internet, because it's broken, is so easy to spy upon. And not only governments do that, our data is very valuable. If you look at the staggering revenue numbers of the companies of the data economy, that's money made with our data. For it, we do get free services. Free is great. Free is free, right? And the quality of the service is pretty cool. And for many of you, these free services are in fact competition, because you may be trying to build more trustable services that don't fool around with the people's data, but then you have to charge for it, because you're not in the data economy, you're in the service economy. And it's pretty hard to compete with free as a price unless people realize what price they're paying for becoming part of the data economy, for becoming part of being exploited. In fact, you might say, I have nothing to hide. We hear that a lot. I don't care. I do my searches, I store my email, I have nothing to hide. Whenever we get a big breach and data floods the internets for us to look at, it becomes very embarrassing for the ones being hit. And just think of that. Think of yourself. What would happen if all the data that you have ever created becomes public? We're all normal human beings, and we're probably embarrassed by a few things that we have done or said or written or Googled for or received and actually read and so forth, because we're just normal human beings, like everybody else, like celebrities, like Sony Entertainment. There are some really interesting emails that were sent by Sony Entertainment executives, but think of your company, what kind of emails you may have sent internally that you thought were internal. And maybe if you are like I, sometimes the wrong name gets on the CC list and you send an internal list to an external reader and you feel embarrassed. And that same feeling times 1,000 is the feeling you get when you're hit. So data is critical even if you have nothing to hide. because not everything we're doing is public. Privacy is a key to what we require from services. It's a key desire of people to have private moments, like in your home, right? In the restrooms, but also in the living room, and even sometimes when you are in public, you want to hide in a corner and have your privacy. And the same applies to the internet. We've been asking people at Open-Xchange, we've been doing 2 studies, one last year and one this year, about how they feel about the service that they're using, if they have discontinued using a service because of the news of breaches and of NSA spying and so forth, if they read things like the terms and conditions of a service. Who of you has ever read a full terms and conditions of a service that you have used? Please raise your hand. Okay, you are the geeks, right? Or lawyers. You may have written them, right? If you go to your phone, if I pull out my iPhone and you go to About, General, About, read it. Try reading it. It's 600 pages. Same goes for Facebook and so forth. So, people are waking up to the fact that this is really stupid. They might as well not tell us what they're doing, inside the service and what we're allowing them to do. A lot of people are saying, and that we found in the studies, that if they ever found out that a company was untrustful with their data by giving it to governments or by using it to sell to advertisers or so, 50% have said they would leave the service. Well, dear people, guess what? That's what the companies are doing. Only 20%, and that was Germany, have said we've left the service. In the US, it was only 12% have said that they've left the service. And most of them, in fact, have come back to using the service again. So in a way, we're saying one thing, we're doing another thing, because convenience, right? These services are just very nice to use, and they are free. So, there's a meme in here that we have to deal with. We have to make the services, the honest services that we provide, so easy and pleasant to use that everybody wants to use them and not leave again. Because the guys that make money from the data economy really know how to lure us in. Now, how can we protect ourselves? There is a real good way. It's very scientific, and it works. It's called encryption. We use encryption in transit, and unless the certificates are, screwed with, encryption over SSL really works. It's hard to crack wholesale. You can crack one connection, but you cannot crack billions of connections. So, encryption in transit already works, and we use it big time. And some of you providers also use this as a marketing tool by saying we only provide access to our services via encrypted lines. The interconnects between the servers are via encrypted lines. When you point your email client to our email services, it has to come through an encrypted line and using the encrypted services. So in a way, we are safe within each other. Again, a specialty of Germany. The providers here call it email made in Germany. And even if you're not in Germany, look at it. It's a pretty smart way of exposing what you're doing for making the data safe in transit between the email providers. Now, a lot of people in our study, actually 67% have said they would be using encryption if it was easy to use. And that's the big issue with encryption, content encryption especially. Because if we would do content encryption, the providers cannot do anything with our data anymore, because now it's just a blob of bits that doesn't make any sense to them unless they have the key. They cannot decrypt it. So we would be sort of breaking the data economy. This is why, even though companies like Google and Yahoo and so forth say, yeah, we really like encryption and we will introduce encryption, if that would be done wholesale, they would have to find a new business model, because the ad model won't work anymore. At least ads won't be that smart anymore, because the content is now hidden from them. So in a way, you would say, even though they might say that, it's really not in their best interest to do that. So if we would provide something that is really trustable, a little more robust than the way the internet is currently built, and that makes it easy for people to use encryption, people would be using encryption. Now, another thing, when you think of, how can we fix this problem, it's really all about trust. We've been hearing a lot about the NSA spying, the data economy, and what these companies do. What it really boils down to is that, I, as a user of a service, I need to have trust in the provider of the service and the service itself. Because then, I feel safe, I know that nothing happens to my data. And how is a trustable service really defined when you think of it? Apart from the encryption that we talked about, the other big component is choice and transparency. This is why I came up with these 4, I call them commandments, for trustable services. When you think of it, the 4 are really easy to come up with. Number 1 is to trust a service. The service must be available from more than one provider. Because if it's only available from one, you cannot move when your trust changes. You can't go from provider A to B. Number 2, to go from A to B, you need to be able to take your data with you. Otherwise, you're losing everything when you move. Now, say you are in Google Apps. Google Apps is only available from one provider. But the problem also is Google Apps data formats, your spreadsheet, your text document, is in a Google file format. So you can convert it, but you're going to lose a lot of information inside. Conversion doesn't work so well. Right? So taking your data with you, even if you physically can take the bits with you, they won't make a whole lot of sense in a new service. So we need data portability. Number 3, what about you losing faith in all providers? You want to run it yourself on your premises. Or you want to pick the guy, the IT guy next door that you've been working with for 30 years to run that service for you. Or you as a service provider decide, I can do that better than anybody else, so I run it. You need the software for it, right? The software, it's that simple. So if a service is not available as software, there won't be that choice. So the service, and that's number 3, needs to be available as software. Now that boils down to number 4. Now you still have to trust the software supplier. Now how do we do that? Well, best would be not to have to trust them at all. I mean, I'm a nice guy, I'm wonderful, you can trust me, you know all that, right? And we can talk over a beer how wonderful I am. Unless somebody gives me $50 million for me to put a backdoor into my software, and I live in Barbados, and I say, bye world, I've been doing it. I'm that nice, but everybody has a price, to be honest, even I. So now, for me not to be able to do that, not to be able to be bribed, I simply open up my software. We're an open source software company at Open-Xchange, exactly because of that, because I don't want you to have to trust me. We can have the trust of the masses. Everybody can look at the code. This is why we're finding bugs so nicely in open source software. This is why the quality of open source software is better, and that's proven, by the way. That's not a marketing hype, scientifically proven. Sometimes bugs become very public, but that's because we find them. The famous Heartbleed bug was found by Google engineers, and they haven't written the code because they were able to look at the code. So those 4 rules make trusted services. And now you add the encryption piece on top of that to build awesome services. And that is what we do at Open-Xchange. We have a full suite of applications. They're all open source. They all run in the browser on all devices. And you can pick and choose from what applications you bundle with the other service that you have and what services, how to package and sell to your customer base. You have, we're an open source company. You have the flexibility to decide by yourself how to do that. You can get commercial support from us. This is how we make money, because we are 150 people that we have to feed, right? So we need to make money, but we can help you make money, and thus we make money. So we were pretty happy in that state up until now. We said, this is pretty cool having a broad application stack. We've added the Office applications. I actually announced that 3 years ago, or 2 years ago. I get confused with the World Hosting Days. 2 or 3 years ago, we announced the release of OX Text, because the Open Office people, a lot of them joined Open-Xchange more than 3 years ago to build out the Office suite. So we've grown from being really good in email to having a full application desktop. Now, to make services better, it's critical that they're really available, that they are very robust, and that they also work with all the other applications that you use. So a couple of days ago, we announced something new. And here's the jingle, right? Timo, Marco, Mikko. One of the fun things of getting married is the getting engaged before you get married. We announced the marriage with Dovecut just a couple of days ago, but we've been engaged for a couple of years, haven't we?
2 years.
2 years. That was good fun, right? The honeymoon has been going on for such a long time. So who are you, Mikko? Please tell me.
I'm Mikko Liinamäki, come from Finland, and I'm one of the founders of Dovecut. Markku is our CEO and co-founder, and Timo is the guy that made Dovecut. So big applause for Timo.
So we're talking about email. You're an IMAP backend. Isn't email all dead already?
Yeah, we've been hearing that that social media has killed email 10 years ago. It's not that much so. DAVCAT our growth is showing that email is more important than ever. And if you really think about what do we do first thing in the morning before we brush our teeth, what do we do? So we get the phone, we watch the email, right? So 70% of American people do that, and they don't go to Facebook or Twitter or whatever. They watch their email.
Interesting. So now, why is DAVCAT so wild? I'm reading 57% of all IMAP servers in the world. Timo, that was you in your bedroom, I guess, hacking away, building what seems to be the best IMAP server. How did that happen?
Well, if you have really great software, it will be popular on itself. And of course, when the Linux distributions selected DAVCAT as the default IMAP server, that of course brought the distribution all over the world, and you all guys are using it, and we are really thankful about that.
And why did you choose the open source path? Why that?
Well, we believe in honesty, and we believe that if you have an open code, then there will be no backdoors for the NSA. Nobody can spy on what you are doing. It's important that your data is safe on your data centers.
Well, so that's basically the same idea. This is why our engagement was so much fun, right? We didn't have to discuss the basics of how we go about things.
Exactly.
So why then did you join Open-Xchange at all?
Well, 2 years ago we were just a small startup which was having a huge product, and we have basically two routes. Either we take some investors and go the traditional startup route, and then it takes a long time until you have your support staff and your sales staff, and we just took the other way, and we said, well, where are the partners that we can work with? And then I find basically you, and you found us, and we started winning large deals all over the planet, from Japan to US to whatever. And once you are in a winning team, then it's an obvious choice. What belongs together belongs together.
So what great things are we going to do together now that we are officially together?
Well, there are many things, like you said, everything is broken. There are many things. We need to make internet more secure. We need to make the mail traffic more secure, the mail storage more secure. It's amazing that 25 years of email, nothing has happened in that front, and we're going to change that.
So thanks, Mikko, Marco, Timo. Thanks for joining Open-Xchange. Welcome to the family. One of the things that was really driving us is how do we make encryption simple. You will hear Ed Snowden talk about this at great length. He will be saying the only way to deal with what we're hearing is encryption. At Open-Xchange, we came up with something we call OX Guard, which is an additional component in our app suite that makes PGP-based encryption very simple. One click, we do the key management on the server. Because we are open source and you can choose your provider, you can run your own server, you can trust the server, so you don't need to do it on the client. That is pretty cool, but it's only in our application suite. Now, what about you using your email client or using some other web application, which you should absolutely do? And obviously, the combination with DAVCAT allows us to push these things down to the IMAP level, to make IMAP basically more secure at this level without dependency on the application. And when we discussed this technically, Mikko, we sort of felt like, well, did we have everything already?
Well, almost, but if you really want to be sure about security and that your domain is really your domain where you are sending your email to, you need a little bit more. And I think we have one more thing, right?
Yes, we have one more thing, and this is what we're announcing today. Hey, Bert, Peter, thanks for having you on stage for a good reason, for an awesome reason, in fact. Thanks for joining the Open-Xchange family as well. That was, 2 in a week. And so now, please tell me a little bit about the company. What does Power DNS do? What is DNS to begin with? Why is it important?
To start with, the DNS is so important that if the DNS doesn't work, nothing works. So if the DNS is slow, then the whole internet feels slow. If the DNS is down, then Mikko cannot check his email in the morning. So it's underlying everything. And if you mess it up, if you make a mistake in DNS, then your services are down maybe for hours. If your DNS is a little bit slow as an access provider, all your customers will think that their internet is slow. And at Power DNS, we had the mission to write software that works at all time, is fast, and protects you against important mistakes you can make that could cause your DNS to go down. But that's what we do.
Well, Power DNS has a staggering market share, especially in DNSSEC, but also in authoritative DNS and also in resolving DNS. Why is that? What makes Power DNS so special?
I think one of the things we did, we believe 100% in open source. That's what we do. I've done nothing else. Open source is what we do. But we also figured that unlike some open source projects, we actually have to listen to our users and customers, who are our friends. So we opened up and we heard from people, they said, look, make it work, make it fast. And that's what we did with the DNSSEC stuff. DNSSEC is important to protect the DNS, to share key materials, for secure email, to pin certificates. But it was so hard to use. And the insight we had was make it simple and people will use it. And that has led to this 90% market share.
And why did you choose the open source path?
I think for us, the innovation is so fast. So we get people that use our software, they say, yeah, we prototyped the whole platform on it last week, and we found these 3 problems, and here are 2 patches.
Yeah.
And that speed of innovation, that permissionless innovation, that does not have a product management in between and 2 quotes and a sales meeting, but we can innovate in a week. And that's so exciting. And the second thing is, like Mikko also said, it keeps us honest. You can trust us because we cannot take the software away from you. If it's broken, someone else could fix it. If there's a backdoor in there, you'll see it. Yeah. And that works for us.
You can trust us because you don't need to trust us, right?
Yes.
That's the good news. So why did you join the Open-Xchange family?
So what we wanted to do, we figured out how to make money with open source by pleasing customers. But we needed to scale that to bigger volumes. And we were wondering, how can we set up the sales organization, the marketing organization, the professional services organization, and I'd like to code more. I think code is what I do best. And, so then Mikko called us because they want to do a secure, trusted email project, and they wanted to have DNSSEC in that. And I studied the Dovecot project, and Mikko quickly hinted that there was a larger company behind them, and we studied them as well. And we're like, we want to be part of this. We want to be part of this family and move ahead. And we're very happy that we're now doing that.
Well, thanks, Bert, and we will be moving ahead, and we will be pushing the envelope now that we are a much bigger family, and we can sort of bring together the best infrastructure components of the internet, with the best applications for the internet. It will be our mission to improve the user experience, but also the trustworthiness and the stability and the security of the service that we're building to fix this damn internet and to bring the money back to you all. Thank you very much.
Come closer.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
I tell you, that is one of the sexiest boy bands I have ever seen right there. It's Rafa and the Exchangers.
You should see Mikko with the guitar. Thanks, Spencer.
Oh, man.